Greetings, my name is Ian and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So many of you who are watching this are probably well aware of the fact that I have reviewed many of the Analogue Productions Genesis remasters. These have all been undertaken by the ever-dependable Chris Bellman. The important thing to know right off the bat when talking about these SACDs is, number one, they are the original mixes, and number two, they include stereo mixes on the SACD layer. Now, I will put up a graphic to explain the difference between the CD and SACD layers. These are dual layer discs, but I have gone into the weeds on explaining all these different points on just about every review I've done so far. So if you want more info on that, go check out one of those other reviews. But quite frankly, I'm a little bit tired of repeating myself. So let's get into the list. At number 7, we have the first release in the Genesis Analogue Productions reissue campaign, and that was Selling England by the Pound from 1971. And this is one that got a little bit of flack at the time of release due to a diminished bass presence throughout. And if you listen to some of the 80s pressings, you can definitely hear what people are talking about. Also, there are notable instances of tape drag throughout this transfer, especially at the end of a song like Firth of Fifth, where it will fall out of tune, like the pitch will drift. And I listened to some previous masters and I didn't really hear that occurring. So that's more of a transfer issue in my opinion. It's not necessarily a mastering issue. However, overall, just like every other release in this series, this master sounds fantastic. And I was listening to it last night in headphones, and I honestly couldn't believe that I was putting it last on my list because it does sound terrific, and it does offer very rich detail, especially over my definitive edition copy from 1994, which is the one that I'm most familiar with. So I do prefer this to the 94 master, and the bass deficiency is something that I've just kind of learned to live with. But I'm guessing that there is like a mid-80s copy that maybe sounds better than this. I mean, you folks who are more familiar with the different issues of this album, you can let me know in the comments below. I've bought it so many times, I'm tired of buying it, so I'm not going to go seek out a copy on Discogs, because I'm actually quite happy with this, even though I'm putting it at the bottom of my list. But I do notice these deficiencies. I notice that the bass is a little bit lacking. I notice the tape drag issues, but they don't really bother me that much. I still think overall this is an excellent way to hear this album, and I would recommend it. So, number 7, I have Selling England by the Pound. Next, I have the most recent issue on the Analogue Productions Genesis SACD series, and that is the self-titled album from 1983. Now, I just reviewed this within the past couple of days. So if you want to hear my deep dive, go check out that video. But I'll just defend its positioning at number 6, in that the original master of this was pretty good. And I'm talking about the Atlantic US pressing from, I believe, 1984, which I found for $10 somewhere in like a music exchange or something like that. And I was impressed by how good the original pressing sounds. Now, this is an improvement. It's an improvement in very subtle ways, but it is an improvement. I would say that the bottom end is most improved, in contrast to, say, Selling England by the Pound, where it's a little bit anemic. This is very punchy, and definitely there's an improvement around the individual instrument clarity and vocal clarity. So again, an excellent sounding disc. It's just not a huge improvement, in my opinion, over the original. So at number 6, we have Genesis, the self-titled album, or Shapes, from 1983. All right, in 5th place, we have the band's fourth album, Foxtrot, from 1972, a very important album in their back catalog because this was the second to cement the classic six-man lineup, the second album with Phil Collins on drums and Steve Hackett on guitar, and it also saw them exploring their potential as a progressive rock band with an early, but not really one of the first, but an early example of a side-length epic called Supper's Ready. And again, I do have an 80s copy of this on CD, and it sounds wonderful. And the differences between that old 80s copy and this new edition are very slim. What I do notice is that this has perhaps slightly less or maybe no noise reduction at all. So it definitely does open up this album quite a bit dynamically, especially, and you can hear tons of detail, particularly in moments like Can Utility and the Coastliners, where you have Mike Rutherford's bass pedals kind of purring along toward the end of the track especially, but also some of the staccato sections in Apocalypse and 9/8 just sound fantastic. However, again, when it's not like a huge night or day leap over a 40-year-old CD that you can get for like $10 on Discogs, it makes it very difficult to recommend it, particularly if you already have that edition. So it's a great album. It's, again, a great sounding master from Chris Bellman. It sounds very faithful, I think, to the original intent, but it's not like an oh my god upgrade, in my opinion. It's a pretty lateral move, and you might notice some subtle improvements, but this isn't going to make me lose my mind or anything like that. So Genesis Foxtrot at number 5. Still, I mean, it's a great sounding master. I really, it pains me to put it this low. But I just feel that these next couple are truly terrific. So at number 4, I have the band's 1981 album entitled Abacab. Now, I know that it's going to be a controversial choice putting this album this high, but again, I'm not ranking it based on the material, but the sound quality. And this is a demo disc, my friends. If you have a Blu-ray player that can read SACD layers, or if you're lucky enough to have an actual SACD player and you want to show off your stereo system, I think this is a great disc to show people. And on top of that, I do think it's an improvement over the original pressing. It's maybe not a huge improvement, but I just feel like it adds so much more punch and clarity. And again, it's also quite an underrated album too. I do love the material on it, especially songs like Me and Sarah Jane and the title track. I love Another Record. I love No Reply at All. There's so many great songs on this, and I think Hugh Padgham's production is better on this album than on the self-titled album which followed. And especially the drums sound terrific. It is really, in my opinion, a huge upgrade over the original CD. So I would recommend this even if you own the old CD, because Chris Bellman was able to wring out quite a bit of detail and again, punchiness that I don't hear so much on the original issue. So at number 4, we have Abacab. Now we're entering the top 3. And, I'm going to make a quick... See, I told you I was changing my mind here right at the last minute, and I just made a quick switcheroo. So at number 3, I have A Trick of the Tail, the first album with Phil Collins on vocals after Peter Gabriel left the previous year. And as an album, it's maybe my favorite Genesis album because you can tell that the band have something to prove here. And especially in songs like Dance on a Volcano, Los Endos, Entangled, Squonk, they are playing with a certain conviction that they are trying to show you, we can survive. We are the band. Peter Gabriel was our singer. We are still Genesis. And I also think that it's a wonderful album to show people who don't know Genesis, who are maybe they're put off by some of the more poppy stuff from the 80s. Maybe the early Gabriel period's a little too weird for them. I think this is a perfect entry point, especially for like Jethro Tull fans, because there's so much acoustic material on this and a lot of like twinkly stuff that makes me think of the Jethro Tull album that would come out the following year, Songs from the Wood, which is one of their best albums. Now, in terms of the mastering, I do think this is an improvement over the 1980s Atco CD, which I thought sounded great when I first heard it, but this is just one or two better. And to me, it's a big leap. I know some people don't agree. When I had talked about doing this ranking, somebody on Progressive Ears said that this one already sounded pretty good, so it would be lower on his list. Not so for me. Again, this is another demo disc to show off what SACD sounds like, or even your system. If you just want to show off what your system sounds like, I think this is a great demo disc, again, because of those dynamics, going from super loud and heavy, almost Led Zeppelin style sections in songs like Squonk, to the more kind of twinkly and ethereal parts of songs like Ripples or Entangled. And then you have stuff in the middle like A Trick of the Tail, which is very Beatlesy, and approaching kind of the pop sensibility that they would explore further down the line. So a great disc. This was almost my number 2, or even, I even consider it as my number 1, but these next two I think are enormous improvements over previous editions. So at number 3, we have A Trick of the Tail, a great album. Again, possibly my favorite Genesis album. It's always kind of neck and neck with this one. And, the one I picked is number 1. So stay tuned. At number 2, we have Nursery Cryme, originally released in 1971. And this is one that I think the original mix was quite botched on. And you still hear some of those flaws, like Peter Gabriel's voice is kind of buried in the mix a lot of times. You can kind of tell that it's one of those albums where maybe everybody was involved in the mixing, because you can certainly hear that Tony Banks' keyboards are a little bit higher in the mix than maybe they should be. But hey, that's his call. Like I always saw Genesis as Tony's band. So if that's what he wanted, that's what he wanted. But I do think that particularly in the dynamics department, this is head and shoulders over previous issues of this album. And in many ways, it helped me to appreciate this album more than I used to. And again, particularly in a lot of the pastoral sections where you have 12-string guitars and what I call twinkly bits, I feel benefits immensely from Chris Bellman's ear. And a song like The Fountain of Salmacis, where you have that dynamic swell from the mellotron, it's white knuckle. Like when I turn this up, I feel like I have to back it down a little bit, because those dynamics really do go for your throat there. So I think this is an excellent disc. I think that each one of these, like top 3 or top 5, maybe more like the top 3, all of these are essential. But this is one that I think benefited absolutely the most. And if you're a Genesis fan, you owe yourself to get a copy of this. And it's worth the money too. Nursery Cryme, back in 1971, at my number 2 slot. So if you've been following along, you probably know what I'm going to have as my number 1. And maybe I'm cheating a little bit because it's a double album. And if you've been following this channel for any length of time, I don't think you'll be surprised. I'm, of course, referring to the epic double LP, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Now, I said that A Trick of the Tail was maybe my favorite, but this is also my favorite. I can never decide which one I like better between The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and A Trick of the Tail. And I guess it just depends on my mood, what day it is, which one I've heard more recently. Do I want to commit 90 minutes or do I want to commit 45 minutes? You know, all these things just kind of decide which one I prefer. Now, in terms of mix, or in terms of the mastering, I should say, this is essential. This is a huge upgrade over previous editions. And indeed, it's an upgrade over the subsequent edition, the box set that came out last year, which I did review on the channel, and I was not happy with it at all. But this is incredible. You want to talk about dynamics? Go listen to a song like Hairless Heart. Yeah, white-knuckled. It's just like Fountain of Soundlessness. It's absolutely breathtaking. The response that this master has, and it's definitely improved in the bottom end. Like, I feel like I can hear more of Mike Rutherford throughout, and I always felt that this is one of those albums that needed that bottom end punchiness more than any other. The instruments are super clear. I can pick out more of Peter Gabriel's vocals, especially in songs like The Colony of the Slippermen. And I believe that legacy versions of this album all had a distracting hum that kind of rested underneath all of the tracks, and that appears to be gone. So to me, much like Nursery Cryme, this is the ultimate version of this album available. And if you're only going to buy one, make it this one. That's my opinion. All right, so at number 1, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. One of my absolute favorite albums ever made. It probably surprises nobody that I would pick it, but I have to say that of all of the ones that they could possibly nail out of the park, I'm glad it was that one. That's how excited I am to include it as my favorite of the Analogue Productions Chris Bellman mastered Genesis CDs. SACDs, I should say. So you're going to have to let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have all of these, do you agree with my ranking? And if you don't have any of these, are you excited to pick them up? I will leave a link in the description to purchase all of these, provided that they are available. Some of them may not be, but I've noticed that Analogue Productions does make an effort to keep their titles in print when they can. And oftentimes they will go out of print and then suddenly come back. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We also are apparently going to have a second cycle of Genesis reissues on SACD. And they've already announced Wind and Wuthering, which I'm very excited for. I think that that's one that could potentially benefit a great deal. And depending on how that's handled, it might crack my top 3 when that arrives. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that whenever that is. Their release strategy is a little bit erratic, and I think that has to do with the fact that the SACD pressing plants are not exactly plentiful. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 in the country, maybe in the world, because this is a format that's not exactly thriving and really only appeals to the audiophile community such as ourselves. So I do know that they did also tease Duke as getting an SACD release. So that's another one that already sounds pretty good. So I'm guessing that it's probably going to rank rather low when it comes out. But of course I'm going to grab it because I love the Duke album. Another thing you could comment is what titles would you like to see get SACD releases? Personally, I say all of them. Go back and do Trespass. And then there were 3. Let's get them all out. Do Invisible Touch. Do them all. Because if you're going to spend this amount of money on them, I think that you are secure in the knowledge that you are spending money on the best versions possible. And I think that that's the most glowing recommendation I could possibly give for this excellent series. So yeah, let me know in the comments below your thoughts. If there's one that you'd like to see get released, like say, and then there were 3, which I think would be a perfect candidate because it's always had a weird mix. Let me know in the comments below. But until then, I'm off to do some more mixing work. It's been fun talking with you, and you'll hear from me really soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.